Welcome to Community Conversations. I am Marcia Kiner, the Executive Director of the Children's Trust of Alachua County. And today we are joined by Dr. Theresa Beachy, the organizational strategist for the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. Welcome, Theresa.
Thanks, Marcia. Very excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you this morning for a couple of reasons. One, because I just enjoy chatting with you. And two, because we are going to be talking about literacy and capacity building for nonprofits here in Alachua County. First, let's share with the people, because what I have found out about you is you know everyone. But there may be
a long time.
someone out there that is not familiar with the Theresa Beachy story. So most people, like me, know of you from Peaceful Paths. So tell everybody a little bit about your background. Tell us about Peaceful Paths, and then take us further back, because I was really intrigued by your beginnings.
Yeah. Well, I've been in Gainesville now since 1989. I came here to go to school. I think like a lot of people fell in love with Gainesville and figured out that this was really where I wanted to be. So I started life as a teacher. I taught high school in Hardy County, go Wauchula, and spent a year there in public school, really enjoyed the experience, but then found my home with Eckerd Youth Alternatives, running a dropout prevention program for at-risk and juvenile delinquent boys at Camp Akelitu in the Ocala National Forest. And I spent 7 years in what I say is the best of all possible jobs in teaching, doing experiential education in the woods, running around with the ability to just do a whole bunch of different things to get kids back excited about learning, excited about being part of a community in that dropout prevention space. So we spent a lot of time doing literacy, catching kids up from being truant, from being not successful in school. And it really gave me a heart for nonprofit work, but also for family advocacy. Understanding that the 27 counties that our program served, those kids went back into school behind the 8 ball in terms of not feeling like they belonged, schools being wary of them. And so my job was really to advocate to get them back into school and get that second chance. And it really led to me finishing my PhD in educational leadership and looking at what I wanted to do next, and Peaceful Paths was right there. And that transition from being an advocate for kids to being an advocate for families in that trauma space was, again, just an amazing opportunity. And obviously it worked. I stayed there for 24 years.
Obviously.
and during that time really learned to be part of the community in a way that I both love and feel honored and blessed to be part of, because people have really accepted kind of this crazy mesh of things that I am passionate about, whether it's kids in trauma, families in trauma, being an advocate, being a feminist, understanding what all of those things mean in the intersectionality of how forces work against and for each other, and doing a lot of systems advocacy work, but making great relationships along the way that have really led to this, my third act in my career.
This moment in time.
This moment in time.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to share that, because as I learned more about you and really started getting to know you, I thought, who better to be really and truly, who better to do all of the wonderful things that we are in the process of doing here in the county around literacy and the nonprofit space with, you know, the folks that we've been working with over the last year in terms of trying to build their capacity and grow them. So let's transition into talking a little bit about the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. So you've been with the center for about what?
A year and 4 months. So 16 months.
Okay. And in that time, you all have gone from being a somewhat of a part-time entity to a full-blown stand-alone shop. Tell everybody a little bit about that transition and process.
So the Center for Nonprofit Excellence has actually been around since 2014. It was a Leadership Gainesville project, class of 42 or 41. No, 42. Yeah, class 42. That Chris Johnson and Carrie Brill put together, got 1 year of funding. They were at the Seed Center at Santa Fe.
Okay.
And really found that in our learning landscape of Gainesville, the big glaring gap was how do we manage the support of nonprofits from the business perspective, from that leadership, from that education, support, advocacy perspective. And they went on to do amazing things in their lives and left the center behind with the Community Foundation. And Barzella and the crew over there just really continued to be a force in making sure that this did not die. And it was a very big side hustle for them for a really long time. And they started to do some amazing workshops around board governance, around fundraising, around leadership development, succession planning. And as a nonprofit, I had been a part of that and really benefited from the education that they were doing, the networking that it was creating. And so when this opportunity came along with the funding from the Children's Trust to make it a more robust full-time project, Barzella knew that I was looking to kind of make that transition out of the trauma chair, right? 31 years doing trauma and crisis work is a lot. But it also gave me this amazing foundation to be able to work with nonprofits and say, don't panic. I understand, you know, all the ins and outs from the funding and the programming development to how you manage staff, how you're asset rich and cash poor, I mean, all the things.
How to work with boards.
How to build community partnerships and collaborations. And so July of 2024, I made the transition to part-time, working still at Peaceful Paths and transitioning their amazing new CEO, Crystal Sorrow, into that work. And then started full-time in October. And then as we were building this ship and kind of figuring out what it was going to look like, along comes a pilot program for collective impact, the Literacy Collaborative.
The Literacy Collaborative.
And what the board of the foundation looked at is said, you know, this is a big project, and in order to do this really well, you're going to need to be a standalone because you're going to have to make a board and different decisions and not have to go through that umbrella process. So in May of 2025, we launched our own project and built a board, had our first board meeting in July, and are working towards getting that IRS status, but all of our state status is in place, so we are now functioning as our own 501c3. So yet another thing that I can tell nonprofits how to do.
That's right. And really and truly, the center has become this hub, right? This hub for our community's nonprofits.
Right.
And the hub for our collaborative literacy project. So as we kind of step into our conversation about literacy, I want us to start with a definition of literacy.
So we have, you know, there are, if you Google literacy, you'll find 1,000 different things. But we are so lucky in our community to have experts at the Lastinger Center, at the universities, University of Florida Literacy Institute, in our College of Education. And collectively, what we have determined is going to be the working definition of literacy for us is that literacy is defined as the ability to read and write in a way that allows you to have full participation in your life and your work.
Yeah, really simple.
Really simple.
Yeah, really simple. And so the Children's Trust, the Board of County Commissioners, and the Alachua County Public Schools Board all decided to partner. They said, listen, we need to do something about literacy in this community. The trust and the school system, of course, we care about children.
Right.
Right? The Board of County Commission said, well, while we care about children as well, we care about the people who are helping children, the caregivers, our adults in this community.
Right.
And so together they said, let's find out what the literacy needs are in the community. And so we reached out, the Children's Trust, reached out to the Lassinger Center to create a needs assessment. And that needs assessment consisted of focus groups, surveys, interviews, you name it, they did it for maybe about 7-8 months. And from that work, a needs assessment report was created. There were 3 recommendations that came out of that report. Can you share a little bit about those 3 recommendations and kind of what brought you and the center into the middle of this conversation on literacy?
Right. So what the best part for me of reading that needs assessment was that it was a big picture snapshot of all the things that we already knew. We knew that we had gaps before 3rd grade, and then we knew we had gaps in upper elementary and middle school for kids who were falling further behind. We had gaps for kids with differing abilities. We had kids that were not speaking English and therefore were falling behind. We had adult learners that weren't that were not meeting what they wanted for standards in employment opportunities. And what it really said to us is that this is an economic development issue. If we want our community to thrive and really be the livable community where kids feel like they can stay and get a good paying job and be part of the community in all the ways that we want them to, whether it's home ownership or entrepreneurship or just that job career path that allows them to build a family and be part of the community, then it really starts with us making sure that they can read and write. And so what the Lastinger report looked at is there needed to be 3 coordinated things happen. We needed to enhance the awareness and communication. We needed to have really focused support in those communities. And we needed to make sure that we were developing people professionally to do those things. And so looking at it from my lens of coordinated community response and collective impact, it naturally lent itself to a team collaboration project. And so when I was approached by the county commission and the Children's Trust, I said, we can do this. There are models for this. We've done it in domestic violence. We've done it in homelessness. We've done it. We're working toward it in food insecurity. This is just another heavy lift. And the best part of it is we have amazing partners. So we've already got all the pieces in place. It's just arranging the pattern to make sure it works for our community.
And bringing everybody to the table, right? I think about this work as there's a role for everyone to play. It's not one entity or one organization that's going to do all the work. It requires all of us, which is why I'm so proud of the trust board, the school board, and the Board of County Commission, because they saw that collectively we could do this.
Absolutely.
Right? Is it going to be a heavy lift? Perhaps, right? We know, perhaps. But we can do it if we're in it together. So I wanted to share a couple of the stats that came out of the report, right? In 2024, only 1/3 of Florida's 4th graders could read with proficiency, and just over half of them could read at grade level. In Alachua County, we learned that 1 in 3 Black students with disabilities, and English language learners can read on grade level, right? 1 in 3.
1 in 3.
So that says we have a problem right here in our own backyard. Right? So as we look at how we're putting this collaborative together, let's talk a little bit about what we've done thus far.
Sure.
So we talked about bringing together some researchers.
Right.
Share with everybody a little bit about that process.
One of the things we know is that anytime you approach a big project like this, you have to have informed pieces, whether it's experts, practitioners, committed individuals, committed programs, to make sure that we're singing from the same sheet of music, right? So one of the things that the Lastinger Center's report did is it identified that we have some great experts and practitioners who are already engaged in this, and they just need to figure out a way to come together. So the first piece was putting together a plan where we could identify and then get the buy-in and the actual work being the work product created from the practitioners, from the experts that can say, okay, these are the kinds of activities, the kinds of evaluations, the kinds of programs that we know work that can help kids as young as pre-K and adults all the way up through adulthood learn and be engaged in the process. So that was the first part, right? So we identify these experts and then start looking at the programs, how they can be implemented, whether it's a tiny program where it's, one or two people working with a group of 20 or less students, all the way up to a big project like Peak Literacy that's working with individuals throughout the community in a variety of age groups, in a variety of settings. We know that activities are already existing or can be built to meet those needs. And then in addition to that, we want to make sure that we've got a community council, an advisory council that continues to inform the work to make sure that the messaging fits, right? That the hubs we create, the virtual and the physical hubs, are in the right formats, are in the right locations, are accessible, that meet the needs. And to do all of that, you've got to have good messaging. You've got to have a landing page that makes sense, and that we've got to have reports that really show this is the impact that we're creating. So we have all these teams, and I really feel like this is the moment where we can come and bring that collective together to really make a community-wide change.
Yeah. So we talked about, you mentioned Peak Literacy. Peak Literacy is one of the partners in this work. But that doesn't mean that they will be the only partner in this work. So right now, share with us kind of the direction that the collaborative is going in terms of how others will be able to join into the work.
Absolutely. So that's one of the most exciting pieces to me, is that we have this group of organizations that are already funded through the Community Action Partnership Program, through the CTAC, that have been vetted, that we know are doing the work, that have proven that they are good stewards of tax dollar money. Right? And so one of the things that we're looking at right now is identifying those practitioners already engaged in the work who want to either be a literacy support or a literacy intervention project, and then partnering them with the curriculum activities, with the training, and with the evaluation methods, that they can start doing this next layer. So we've got, right now, it looks like somewhere between 12 and 15, depending on how it all shakes out, right? Organizations that are already ready to go. And so as we build these curriculum activities, get our experts on board, they're already ready to step up. And it's everything from tiny programs to big programs that address kids throughout the county in a variety of settings that are already ready to go. So that's super exciting.
It's super exciting. And then I think about the fact that maybe someone out there is working with their education program at their church. And it's a group of retired teachers. And they see that they are making a difference with the students there in their church. Is there going to be a way for them to participate in this project, in the collaborative?
Absolutely. So once we know what programs are really effective, the next net we cast is, okay, who wants to implement this? You know, who has the capacity or needs to build some capacity to do this? But I think about like our historic programs like the Micanopy Tutoring Program, or our Pine Ridge program, or the churches that identified themselves at our town halls last week in High Springs and Hawthorne. they want this in their community. So now we'll have a whole group of people who have already implemented it, who can then go out and be the trainer, and train this next round of folks to implement this. And then there'll be investment dollars for them to build that capacity, whether it's hiring staff or getting materials or supporting the space that they already have with maybe some additional technology resources, transportation support, whatever it looks like to get people to those community-based centers to be able to increase this work.
Yeah, that's so good, Theresa, because everybody wants, I believe, everybody wants to help.
They do.
They don't necessarily know their role, right, in the process. And that's why we're going to have these advisory councils.
Right.
Right? What's Alachua Reads?
So you can email us right now at alachuacountyreads@gmail.com and give us your feedback. What you see, or maybe a role that you can play, or what you're seeing happening in your community that you want us to know. The best way for us to make sure that this is an informed process that actually meets the needs, whether it's access, whether it's just ensuring that the right people are at the table, that table is big enough and fits the right size for everybody, is to give us that feedback. So we had these 2 town halls last week.
Yes.
Now our goal is to take that on the road. So if you've got a PTA, you've got a church group, you've got a community center, we would love to come out and do that same process on a smaller scale with you.
Yes.
Get your feedback. In the meantime, email us, alachuacountyreads@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts. We've got a College of Education team that's going to be working on synthesizing all of that feedback so that our marketing campaign, our awareness campaign includes your thoughts, and we have a way to reach back out to you and bring you to the table.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. So, Theresa, literacy came to CNE
Right.
because of the work you all have already been doing, right? You, CNE, and the Trust have a partnership where you are helping us build the capacity of the nonprofits that work with the Children's Trust. I think we've invested about $360,000 into CNE just to help with the capacity building of some of our providers. Let's talk a little bit about that work. What have you been doing for the Trust and the Trust providers, as well as the community at large? Because I remember a certain workshop or conference last year that you all put on for grant writing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Trust has been a fantastic partner because they really understand that as this develops, it's going to go down a bunch of different paths, right? To really figure out what it is that people need. We knew from the beginning that there were some big capacity issues. Understanding how to do grants, how to bill invoices, how to just have operational standards and practices that are beyond your mission, right? But really as a business model. And so that's kind of where we started. And then in February of 2025, I held our first annual visioning session. So we did 2 weeks where people could come in individually, and at that time we had about 60 members. So I thought, well, if we can get 10% of them to come in and talk about what they need, that would be great. Well, 22 organizations showed up over that week, and it really gave us a blueprint to build out the work that we did between March and October of this year. And that included everything from a workshop on how to build your board, an operations conference that addressed the nonprofit life cycle and a new way of thinking about strategic planning. It included a fundraising conference that we held in August that had over 100 people there, really learning about not only how to do the next level of donor stewardship and giving, but how to build a development program from the ground up, how to make a spectacular event, all of those things. And we just held our first board opportunity mixer. So people in the community that think they want to serve on a board, matching them up with the 17 organizations that showed up that say we need board members. So we're doing kind of the range of things from individual executive roundtables roundtables where we just had one yesterday talking about uncertainty and how to reframe that in your organization as an opportunity to take some action. We've talked about everything from how to do data and deliverables, telling your story better, getting measurement and return on investment, to what collective action and impact really mean, and how you could potentially merge or collaborate better with other partners to ensure that everybody's meeting their purpose, gaining the mission, and not just being competitive over the same $50.
I love that, because it shouldn't be a competition, right? Every organization is unique, and they need to look at all of the work as what is it that we do and we do really, really well that makes us stand out. I think that part of the reason I've been so proud of the work that we've been able to do with CNE is that we are empowering, the folks that we work with to really dig deep and see how they can expand, not only expand their reach to supporting children, but expand their businesses to become sustainable businesses. And if we do nothing else, that's a goal, be able to sustain them. When we think about the impact that CNE has had on the community, what would you say has been the biggest impact from your viewpoint?
From my viewpoint, I think it's that people are understanding that if they take time to invest in their business from a learning, from an education, an advocacy, and a support standpoint, that they're more likely to win. And by win, I mean that they'll be sustainable, that they'll be able to fulfill their purpose. And I think it's one of those situations that nonprofits historically have just not invested the time or the effort in building the business model. They're so focused on the work, which is what we want them to do, that they have been remiss in really focusing on building that business capacity. But now they're seeing that with a really small investment of time, they can magnify that purpose, that mission dramatically, just by putting into place some best practices, some leading practices, looking at excellence and what that means for their organization, building succession, building boards that are engaged, and all of those things really just boil down to our basic mission statement, which is helping nonprofits do what they do better. And you were in the room when we got that.
I was. I see it as building community.
Building community.
We are building the nonprofit community. So I'm so proud of the work that we are doing. This is indeed a great partnership between the Trust and the Center for Nonprofit Excellence, between capacity building, the Literacy Collaborative. We really are making our community better. So thank you, Theresa.
Thank you. I love the opportunity. I'm very honored to be part of this work.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Theresa, for joining me here today, for all of the work that you have been doing and will do. Again, just really proud to partner with you and the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. That concludes today's community conversation. I want to thank you for joining us. We believe it takes a village, and you are part of our village. So until next time, see ya.